And you almost didn't come back. You almost stopped. You almost decided quietly, in some ordinary moment, maybe last week, maybe last month, that your window had closed, that the life you were supposed to have had already been given to someone else, that you had somehow missed it while you were busy surviving everything that happened to you. You did not say this out loud. You don't say most of the things that hurt the most. But here is what I need you to hear before another second passes. The fact that you feel late, the very ache of it, is not evidence that you missed something. It is evidence that something in you still knows what it's moving toward. You do not mourn a destination you stopped believing in. You only grieve the gap when you still believe arrival is possible. That grief is a compass. And tonight, I am going to show you how to read it. Before this video ends, you are going to understand something specific, something nobody ever explains clearly enough. Why the seasons of your life that felt like stalling, like circling, like being held just below the surface. Why those seasons were not wasted time. Why they were, in fact, the exact preparation that the version of you who is coming needed. You are going to understand why you are not late. You are being built, and what is being built for anything real takes longer than we think we deserve. Stay with me. I know what it looks like from the inside, where you are. It looks like everyone else got a head start you didn't know was happening. It looks like the people your age have already arrived at something solid, a relationship that didn't fall apart, a financial foundation that didn't crack, a sense of self that doesn't shift every time something hard happens. And you are still here, still in the middle of the story, still trying to understand the chapter you're in. I know the particular loneliness of that. Not the loneliness of being alone in a room. The loneliness of feeling behind while smiling correctly. Of holding yourself together in public and then sitting down at the end of the day and feeling the weight of everything you are still carrying. The quiet exhaustion of maintaining the appearance of someone who has it together when internally you are still trying to find the flaw. I know how hope starts to feel embarrassing after a certain age. How you begin to edit your own wanting. How you say, I'm realistic now, when what you mean is, I've been hurt enough times that I've stopped admitting what I actually still want. I see that. I see you holding that. And I need you to know that is not weakness. That is someone who has been through real things. That is a life that has required something from you. And tonight, I'm going to tell you what it was preparing you for. Because the pain is not proof you are failing. The pain is proof you are close. Those two things look almost identical from the inside, and almost no one tells you that. There is a pattern. It has a name now, at least in this room tonight. I call it the Stillwater Trap. Here is how it works. Something difficult happens. A relationship ends. A plan collapses. A health crisis. A financial fall. A period of deep confusion about who you are and what your life is for. And during that period, you slow down. Of course you do. That is not weakness. That is a human response to overload. But then something else happens. The difficult season begins to ease. Life gets slightly more manageable. And instead of moving forward again, you begin to mistake the stillness for safety. You start organizing around the absence of pain rather than toward the presence of what you want. You keep things small because small things don't hurt as much when they go wrong. You play a short game in a life that deserves a long one. The Stillwater Trap is not giving up. It looks nothing like giving up. It looks like being careful. It looks like being responsible. It looks like waiting until you're sure. But underneath it, quietly, without you noticing, you have stopped growing in the direction of your actual life. You have traded becoming for maintaining. This is why you feel late. Not because you are, but because some part of you has been waiting for a signal that it is safe to want again. And that signal has never come, because safety is not what growth feels like. Growth feels like risk, like exposure, like standing in an open field while the sky changes. And here is the thing you need to understand about how this pattern forms. It is not a flaw. It is not evidence of something broken in you. It is a perfectly intelligent response to having been hurt. Your nervous system learned at some point that wanting big things and then losing them was a specific kind of pain it could not afford again, so it built a structure around your wanting. A quiet ceiling, a limit you agreed to without signing anything. That ceiling is not protecting you anymore. It was once, it is not now. I am not behind. I am being built for something that requires all of this. Say that slowly. Let it move through you. Now I want to tell you exactly how change actually happens, not in theory, but in the body, in the pattern, in the real mechanics of a life that begins to shift. The first principle is what I call pressure conversion. There is a fundamental misunderstanding about hard seasons. We experience them as waste, as time subtracted from the life we were supposed to be living. But the science of resilience tells us something different. Adversity does not only deplete. When the nervous system is given enough support and enough time, it converts pressure into capacity. Think about a woman in her late 40s who went through a 5-year period of what she later called the long flatline. A divorce, a layoff, a health scare, and a period of financial devastation that arrived in almost the same 18 months. She told someone close to her that she had wasted those years, that she had nothing to show for them. But what she couldn't see yet was that she had developed a tolerance for uncertainty that people twice her privilege couldn't access. She had learned how to stay present when things fell apart. That is not nothing. That is a particular kind of power. The pressure didn't waste those years. It made her capable of the decade that followed. Your hard seasons have been doing the same thing. The question is only whether you will let yourself claim what they built. The second principle is called identity lag. Here is something almost no one tells you. When your life begins to change, when you begin to shift your patterns, your beliefs, your self-concept, the change happens before you can feel it. The neural pathways are rewiring. The old story is already losing its grip, but the feeling of being the old version of yourself persists for weeks, sometimes months, after the actual turning point has already happened. This is identity lag. You have already changed, you just haven't felt it yet. This is why people give up right at the threshold. They make the inner shift, they do the real work, and then they feel no different. And they interpret that feeling as evidence that nothing worked. When in fact, they were standing one breath away from the feeling catching up with the reality. A man who had spent 3 decades in a pattern of financial self-sabotage, spending every time money arrived as if keeping it was somehow dangerous, made the decision at 53 to stop, just stop. He made the decision on a Wednesday. He told no one. He just stopped. And for weeks he felt exactly the same. He thought he had failed again. He almost went back to the old pattern. He didn't. And 6 months later, he couldn't explain what had shifted. Only that one day he noticed the feeling had caught up. He was already different. He just hadn't known it yet. You may already be different. Your feeling hasn't caught up. That is not failure. That is identity lag. The third principle is the irreversibility of witness. When you name something true, when you say out loud, in your own words, what is actually real for you, something happens in the nervous system that cannot be undone. The speaking of a truth creates a new reference point in the body, a fixed coordinate, a place you can return to when doubt arrives, as it will. This is why writing something down matters. This is why saying something aloud has a different weight than only thinking it. You are not just acknowledging a truth. You are making yourself a witness to your own life. And witnesses, remember, witnesses hold the thread even when the feeling fades. Say it slowly. Let it move through you. Say it again. I am not behind. I am being built for something that requires all of this. If this feels true in you tonight, if something in this room, in this voice, in these words has touched the part of you that is still willing, write this in the comments and let your own words witness you. I am not behind. I am being built for something that requires all of this, and tonight I choose to believe that. Write it, not for the algorithm, for you, For the version of you reading these comments in 6 months who needs to know that this moment happened. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to try something. Not as a technique, as a gift you give yourself. Find a few minutes of quiet, and if quiet is hard to find tonight, find the closest thing to it. Sit or lie down or stand at a window and at. It doesn't matter where your body is. What matters is that you choose, deliberately and gently, to be present to yourself. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable, and let yourself think about the season you have been in. Not to analyze it, not to fix it, just to let yourself look at it clearly, the way you look at something difficult from a safe distance and realize, I have been in this. This has been real. I have been carrying something real. Let that acknowledgement be enough for a moment. You don't have to arrive anywhere tonight. You only have to be honest. Then, when you are ready, let your mind go forward, not to a specific goal or a specific date, just forward, into the life that is being prepared for you. Let yourself feel, even for a few seconds, what it might feel like to be standing on the other side of this season. Steadier, clearer, more yourself than you have ever been. Not because everything is solved, but because you made it through. Because you kept moving through the years when moving felt impossible. Let that feeling land in your chest. Don't explain it, don't qualify it, just let it be there. And then, quietly, say it. Out loud if you can. In the privacy of your own breath if you can't. I am not behind. I am being built for something that requires all of this. Sleep will carry this deeper. You don't have to do anything with it tonight. Your nervous system already knows what to do. You only have to have been willing. You only have to have let the truth touch you long enough to begin its work. If something in the last few minutes just settled in you, like a quiet recognition rather than a new idea, tap like, not for the channel, for yourself, to mark this moment. I want to tell you about someone. She was 51 when everything that had held her life together finally gave way. The word finally matters here. Because it wasn't one thing. It was the accumulated weight of a marriage that had been over long before it ended, a financial life built on ground that was never as stable as she had believed, and a self-concept that had been so thoroughly organized around taking care of everyone else that she had genuinely forgotten, not metaphorically but actually forgotten, what it felt like to want something for herself. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in November. She drove home from the attorney's office and sat in a parking lot outside a grocery store for 45 minutes because she couldn't figure out why she would go inside. What was she shopping for? Who was she cooking for? What was the shape of a life that had just been restructured at its most basic level? She was not dramatically broken. She was not in crisis in a visible way. She was quietly, completely lost. She had told herself, during the worst years of the marriage, that she would feel better once it ended. And then it ended. And she felt worse. Not the grief of loss. She had already grieved. Something quieter and more frightening. She felt irrelevant. She felt like something that had been used up. She was 51, and she felt, in that parking lot on a Tuesday in November, that she was standing at the edge of a life that no longer had anywhere to go. She started watching videos, reading things, not looking for inspiration. She was past the point where inspiration felt useful. She was looking for something honest, something that would tell her the truth without trying to sell her a shortcut. What she found, slowly, over weeks that felt impossibly long, was not a method, not a program, not a set of steps. What she found was a different way of understanding the years she had just lived. She began to see, not all at once, but in pieces, the way you see something through fog, that the years she had spent managing an impossible situation had developed in her a steadiness she hadn't recognized as a skill. She had been so busy surviving that she hadn't noticed she was also becoming someone who could survive, someone who could hold a complicated reality without shattering, someone who could face a hard morning and still make the decision to try. She began, very slowly, to want things again. Small at first. She wanted a particular kind of afternoon, quiet, outside, with a book and nowhere to be. She let herself have it. It felt strange. It felt almost guilty. She had it anyway. She wanted to take a class in something she had abandoned 20 years ago because it had felt impractical. She took the class. She was not good at it. She took it anyway. She began to see that she wasn't starting over. She was starting forward, with everything she had learned, with everything she had become, with all of it available to her in a way it had never been before, because she had never before been forced to inhabit herself so completely. 3 years later, she is not living a different life in a cosmetic sense. She is not wealthy. She is not famous. She has not found a new love story. But she is living a life that is genuinely hers, perhaps for the first time. She makes decisions based on what she actually wants, rather than what she is afraid of losing. She has stopped apologizing for needing time. She has stopped treating her own becoming as an inconvenience to manage around. She told someone close to her recently that she used to think those years were proof she had gotten something terribly wrong. Now she thinks they were the education. She thinks she needed all of it. She thinks she was not late. She thinks she was being built. I am not behind. I am being built for something that requires all of this. That is the line she carries now, not as a comfort, as a fact. Here is what I am asking you to do, not as homework, as a covenant with yourself. For the next 21 days, you are going to find 3 specific moments in each day. When you first open your eyes in the morning, before the phone, before the noise, you are going to say it, out loud if you can, in your chest if you can't. At some point in the middle of the day, when something small goes wrong, or when you feel the old doubt arriving, you are going to say it. And at night, in the last moments before sleep, when you are most honest and most quiet, you are going to say it one more time. 21 days, 3 times a day. That is 63 separate moments in which you choose, deliberately and on purpose, to tell yourself the truth. You are not behind. You are being prepared. This is not a positive affirmation. Positive affirmations ask you to pretend. This is a statement of evidence, and you have the evidence. You have been living it. Make the choice, not loudly, quietly, the way all real things begin. Right now, this room, this breath. Whatever you were carrying when you pressed play tonight, it is still real. I am not asking you to pretend it isn't. I am asking you to hold it differently, to understand that the weight of it is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of a life that has been asking something real of you, a life that has required you to develop something specific. You have been developing it, even when it didn't feel like development, even when it felt like loss. Especially then. The waiting you have been doing, it has not been passive. It has been preparation. The seasons that felt like stalling were seasons of construction. The periods of silence were not absence. They were the quiet before a thing that is built becomes visible. You are not too old. You are not too far behind. You are not out of time. The most important work of your life does not require you to be younger. It requires you to be exactly who you have become through everything that has happened to you. That person is ready. That person has been ready for longer than they know. Every time you chose not to give up, even when giving up would have been the rational, understandable, completely defensible thing to do, you were choosing this moment, this version of yourself, this readiness. The shift has already begun. It began the moment you pressed play. It began the moment some part of you refused to stop believing. And now it deepens, breath by breath, choice by choice, day by day. You are not late. You have never been late. I am not behind. I am being built for something that requires all of this. Say it one more time. Let it settle in every part of you that has been waiting to hear it. You are home.